It starts small. Your partner does something that gets under your skin. So do you say something and risk an argument, or do you stay quiet and let it simmer? That's the pattern that so many couples get stuck in. So today we're going to be looking at real Reddit stories of couples stuck right in that moment. Couples that just aren't sure how to speak up without wrecking the moment. We'll read these stories, workshop them from our perspective, and give you some tools that you can actually use in your relationship.
Honey, we need to chat.
Welcome back to Honey, We Need to Chat, the podcast all about communication in relationships. My name is Amy. This is my wife, Blair. I jest because Blair usually does this part. As you can see, my wife, Blair, is back with me.
I'm back.
He's back this week.
I am back. And we have a little present.
We have a third person joining the podcast.
And you're only going to see this if you're on YouTube to get on YouTube. But it's our award that we won last week. Yeah. So for those that don't know, that didn't tune in last week, Amy soloed last week's episode, did a coaching course with you guys, and it was fantastic. So go check that out. But I was MIA. I was up in the Gold Coast. Amy and I were nominated for an Emerging Talent Award. And man, what a ride. We legit were looking at the nominees and we're like, look, there's no way we're going to win. You know, like we're just not that big. We're not that known. There's no way we're going to win. We're like, oh, look, it would be a really good investment for us to network and get to know people. And so people are we're nominated. So people are going to, know the name a little bit more now. So I went up there and I was sitting in the awards night thing and we won.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so weird. Like we just weren't expecting that at all, and we just won. So that helped networking.
Yeah, and it was so funny because I'm like in my pajamas on the bed, like refreshing the live stream, and I missed it.
Yeah.
I'm so mad. The one segment that I missed was ours. But I was like, this is so weird to be across the country looking the way I'm looking and winning an award. But Blair represented.
I repped it. So check out this week's vlog as well. Yeah. Actually, it's going to be last week's vlog by the time this podcast episode comes out. So check out last week's vlog. I think it's vlog number 7, and you're going to see that whole trip. So I filmed majority of it. Just to show you guys as well. So go check that out.
Behind the scenes. I haven't even seen.
I haven't finished it.
Well, I haven't seen the clips.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So I also will be checking it out.
Yes.
Well, on this podcast, if you've been around for a little while, you will have heard us say that when communication dies, bad things happen. That's the kind of tagline that we go with. And even this week, we've seen news articles indicating just how true this is. When communication dies, bad things happen. It's so important for communication to stay alive in order for us to be functioning in a constructive way, regardless of the area. And we've seen that in politics this week, some really sad stuff. We've seen that across the world in global situations, in big corporations. And we see that more intimately in relationships. And that's why we do what we do. And we talk about this on a smaller, more intimate family, personal level. But when communication dies, bad things happen. Things break down. Patterns get destroyed. Grand scheme, we see this politics dissolve. Humans become divided, defensive, dehumanized. And then on this more intimate level, we see relationships breaking down. We see families breaking down. We see systems from the ground floor breaking down. And so that's why we're so passionate about communication, workshopping how to do that constructively, and just the power and the freedom that comes from being able to talk, being able to communicate. And so that's why we're going to dive through this Reddit series today. We're going to be looking at just a classic Reddit episode with a bunch of Reddit stories, and we're going to workshop how we would communicate through some of these things. It's just an example to show how many times in relationships, how often through relationships, there's decisions to build communication or decisions to avoid it. And how quickly those little decisions that might not feel that big can build into a bigger pattern. I had someone comment to me just recently about how they're finding themselves in this frustrating pattern with external family members that are difficult. And they're in this pattern where they have to always find excuses, always avoid seeing these people because they're a difficult family member. And I was just thinking as they were sharing this with me, this family member is really difficult to be around. So I can understand that. But I wonder how different it would be, how different this pattern would be if way back at the beginning, communication had been focused on clear, honest, raw communication had been focused on. How different would that pattern be now? And hindsight is 2020. We don't know, we can't predict the future. It's really hard to project that stuff. And it's easier to look back and be like, oh, look at where we've come. But this is kind of an example of what we talk about here. If we can implement constructive communication as soon as possible, then these patterns can be avoided. Doesn't mean that this difficult family member becomes easy to be around. Sometimes that just means much clearer boundaries. But what's more important when I think about this area is the freedom that you feel to show up honestly as yourself, knowing that you're being as constructive as you can be as an individual. Or else we find ourselves in these patterns years down the track where it's really complicated. And there's also a blurring of ownership. It becomes a different problem. It morphs from one problem to another and it shifts that ownership. And so those are the things that slowly break down and kill communication. They kill relationship. So today we're going to talk about that. In some of these Reddit stories, we're going to dive into these stories. We're going to workshop how we would navigate it. These are real people, real situations, and we're real people. Just workshopping how we might tackle these things as we go in.
And before we do go on, I want to just mention as well, Amy and we've got some feedback. We got it a while ago, asking the question, like, do you guys actually struggle as well? And the answer is absolutely. Like, this podcast is really down to, we've been really blessed to have a lot of people speak into our relationship. There's a lot of things that Amy and I have had to work on too. And that's where a lot of this comes out of, is the things that we work on. We realized when we got asked that question, it was like how disconnected some people might feel from us being able to actually relate to your situation. Yeah. And because we're people behind a mic. And so what we've done is we wanted to help bring you behind the scenes a little bit more, get to know us a little bit more. And so if you're not on our socials, go follow Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but make sure you go check out YouTube. So YouTube, we have weekly vlogs as well. We're also going to be coming out with more small coaching clips that will go on there specifically to help you work through what it is you're working through. I also want to plug our website, honeyweneedtochat.com. On there, we have a bunch of resources that will tie down to specific episodes as well to help you actually navigate through it. So one thing, you're listening, we don't want to just be more noise out there. There's so much noise, positive and negative noise, but we want to help you actually work through that personally. So go check out our website, download the free resources, and it'll help you navigate through that and wrestle through that as well.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Let's dive into some Reddit stories.
Let's Reddit.
Reddit story. Reddit story number 1. 22 male with 22 female new relationship. How do I raise concerns about her childlike behavior and baby talk? I'm a 22 male and recently started dating a 22 female. She's kind, smart, loving, and beautiful. Everything I could want in a partner. We've been together for a short while and I genuinely care about her. However, she often talks to me in a baby voice and behaves in ways that seem overly childlike. For example, how she dresses, the way she speaks. At first, I thought it was cute and playful, but now it's starting to affect the way I see our connection. It sometimes feels like she sees herself as a child, which is a bit unsettling. She also doesn't put much effort into dressing up or creating romantic spark moments, and I worry that we might grow apart if I don't address it. How can I bring this up kindly and respectfully without hurting her or making her feel judged? I want our relationship to grow in a healthy way and communication is important. I just don't want to mess it up.
This one I think is really important, like sensitively. So, you know, straight away I'm like, oh, man, I would struggle if that was
you. Like a baby.
Take it like a baby. I would just genuinely really struggle. But I know if you did that and I just came straight out and said, can you stop talking like a baby? That would be like a shock to you. And I could just see like there's just so much room for insecurities and everything to come into that space, especially like how long have they been dating for?
Very recently.
Very recent.
I don't think they said exactly.
Especially, I mean, especially always, especially if you first started dating because you're still building that trust with each other. So the fact is, you know how people use humor a lot in situations. I can see it's something similar, right? Like, so my issue is I get too jokey. I joke too much, because that's just the way that I navigate through difficult situations or try and deal with boredom or whatever. But I do it too much. So if you just said stop trying to joke all the time, like that would be to me like, well, I don't know what to do with that, right? Like this is just what I do, and so it would be feeling like you're attacking a bit of me, even though it's not me. I would feel that.
Well, I immediately think a similar thing, but that this baby talk might be from insecurity. From the first place. So the new relationship, like probably a little bit awkward still navigating, getting to know each other, and may or may not have been in many relationships in the past. Like she's pretty young. And so I can imagine there being a little bit of like, ooh, like not sure how to act.
Yeah.
And so pointing it out is sort of the similar with the joking thing, right? Like pointing it out is important, but how you point it out. And I guess, as we always say, the curiosity about why and being very careful about how you are curious about it can be really important, I think, to figure out what's making that happen.
Yeah, exactly. So asking the question, like, I wouldn't come straight out and say, stop talking like a baby. Like even just jokingly, like, why do you do that? Like, what is that? Like, you know, have fun with it. You know what I mean? Like, I know it might get irritating, but have that exploration, be fun. You don't need to be so strict. And that's probably something you got to put aside as well, is put aside your frustration with it or the cringiness of it, or whatever you're feeling.
Yeah.
Try and have fun with it as you're exploring it and then work through it together.
Yeah.
Something that comes to my mind about the clothes, though, is when we first started dating and you wore Doc Martens.
Oh, yeah.
This is just so funny because, like, I'm like, I just made a comment. I don't like Doc Martens. They're big, they're bulky.
It's not his vibe.
It's not my vibe, right?
Yeah. They were my vibe.
They were Amy's vibe. I just made one comment. That is it. I made one comment. I think I didn't even know what I said.
You said, I think you said, I didn't expect you to dress so emo.
Did I?
You know, something along those lines.
I mean, I thought it was going to be smoother than that. But anyway, I said one thing and Amy got rid of them. Like, she did not wear them. I have never seen her in Doc Martens. And we were very fresh dating.
Yeah.
We went on a date.
It was our first date.
First date, yeah. And like, I felt so bad because that was not my intention. It was just not being aware of the words that I was using. And even, how did you feel in that when I said that? I mean, if you remember back that far.
I think I was like, oh, this is not his thing. I thought I liked that look, or I liked that look back then. But it wasn't like closely tied in. If I was like fully invested in that, then I probably would have been a little bit more insecure about it. I don't love that that's how it played out. If I think about it in like hindsight.
I hate that's how it played out.
Like even recently I was like, oh, I could do with some Doc Martens. But I know you don't
now
love
I'll
them.
just tell you. Like, do not. I
would not. And we had this conversation, I don't know, a couple months ago.
Did we?
Yeah, I was like, well, I would get them, but you don't like. I was just joking. You would disown me or something.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I wouldn't disown you. But it's a good conversation because I don't know the answer to this. Like, where is preferences? Where's the line with that? And I think for us, it was so low on my priority list that I was like, oh, I'll get rid of them. I'm not going to wear things, especially early on, that I know is not his vibe. If you had made a comment about my body or something, that would be totally different because that's something I can't change. And if it was like a really intense, like if it was like, you know, I love my hair purple. Like I just love my hair being purple, and you made a comment about it, and that would be probably more problematic. But to me, it was like a give or take, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll get rid of them. And I just noted, you're not a emo-y dude, and that's kind of how I was when I was younger. So
I can think through too. Like, so if you were. So we've never really had issues with each other's clothes. It's been more the opposite. Like, I want to dress in a way that you like. Like that's so that my style, which is not really a style, to be very,
neither
very
of
clear.
us are super styled. I think that's
so the clothes one is a little bit hard, but I can see how if I was to have comments on your clothes, like how that could affect you though. Like, you're trying to live a life of impressing me. I think is not healthy. So with the clothes thing, I mean, it's her style too. Like that's fine. You know, if she's not wearing the clothes that you want, I think you gotta be very careful. There's this fine line of sharing what you like and, you know, dressing for each other, whatever, and just trying to change her. Like, I think the changing sort of stuff is probably not the healthy bit about it, but the conversation's important, but I think almost a curiosity with yourself as well. So this story is interesting, and I think this is probably more relevant to us. He says she also doesn't put much effort into dressing up or creating romantic spark moments. So I don't really know what he means. I was going to have comments on that in a little bit. So you go.
Well, so they're not putting much effort into dressing up, and she talks in a baby voice. To me, I struggle to put effort in. Like, if I'm low, my lowness emotionally plays out on my external. I struggle to put effort into how I look. I struggle to get out of that hole, especially if I've like and I always do. I always have had like body insecurities, or what's it called? Self-esteem, stuff like that. And so it just builds a picture for me. If she's not putting effort in, especially early in a relationship, for me, that would flag that potentially there's like more evidence for insecurities or more evidence for some mental health stuff going on. Maybe she's just like a very chill dresser and she doesn't do that anyway. But that with the baby voice, I'm like, it's building a picture for me that she might be navigating these things. And that's a tricky one because if I think about my experience, like I want to put effort in, not just for you anymore. Like I think earlier on, it was more about you. And now as we've gotten older, it's more about also myself. But I want to be able to put effort in. But when I feel bad about myself and I'm in this hole, it's really complicated. Because if you were like, you haven't really dressed up nicely, that would just like pile more on.
Yeah.
It's like such a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And so your curiosity about, which we've never had this we've literally never had this conversation. But if you were wanting to raise something like that, your curiosity about what's going on for me would be more important, I think, than you saying you don't put much effort in. Being like, how are you feeling? You seem low, or like what's going on, and exploring that stuff. And then time together is what helps you have that because you understand each other better, you know, each other's patterns better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going really into the spark element for me that he talks about. So he says she doesn't put much effort in dressing up or creating romantic spark moments. And I worry that we might grow apart if I don't address it. It's funny that he's bunched the clothes and the spark thing up. So this is me trying to read between the lines and trying to interpret what I think he might be saying. So I'm going to try and separate the two there. Dressing up and the spark moments. I think the spark moments are important. Yeah, I really do. I think the spark moments are important, not in terms of you've always got to be having that spark every moment, every time, but being intentional with trying to create that spark moment. So let me clarify what I mean by a spark moment. So a spark moment is like dates, like, putting an effort into, so it's not like, so for example, if I was the only one that ever put in effort for a date night, that would be hard.
Yeah.
If I was the only one that put in efforts to give you cuddles or words of affirmation or whatever else it is, that would be harder, right? When it's one-sided, that is hard. So the spark moment, because that's with our feeds into our romance. It feeds into our time together. I think it feeds into the way that we dress as well in a weird way. Like if we go out for a date night, we are dressing up. We are putting in that effort a bit more because we're not wanting to go out for dinner in our tracksuits because we're wanting that special moment together. So I think it's really important to do, and definitely something that's probably one of the easiest things to dwindle after relationships being together for too long. And especially relationships that haven't really been able to communicate through things or prioritize things in that relationship.
Yeah. And again, because I just can kind of play this out for myself because I've seen these patterns when I'm low. I think I do have on my side, I assess what's going on for myself, but some people really struggle to do that. And if I felt insecure, especially early on. So an example I have is one of my other boyfriends, my first boyfriend in high school.
Not her other current boyfriend.
Yeah. My first boyfriend in high school, I thought, like I'd never been in a relationship before. And I thought, oh, this is going well. And then he raised something like, I don't know, a couple months in or something that was really interesting. And at the time I felt really embarrassed by it. But he's like, you always agree with me. Like you can say what you think. And I realized I really had been like anything he said, I was like, yep, that's right. And it was like, I must have been like a brick wall or something, or just like a personality-less person, because I just thought in my head, I don't want to rock the boat and I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I'm feeling insecure. And so I just kind of held it back. And it was really interesting. He raised it gently. It was like, kudos to him. He did well with that. But he's like, you can disagree with me. And I was like, I can. And I think it's sort of the same thing. Like I can, even when we got together, I was older than when I was dating this person. So, I have 5 years and I'd lived out of home for a little bit in that time. So I'd had more life experience, but even then I still struggled in the face of your confidence and your independence, because you'd been out of the house and been working and like been an independent adult for so long. I still struggled sometimes just with this like thought of, I don't know what's going on. Like you're so confident and I don't really know what's going on. And I had to really force myself, and it probably took a little while. It's taken years, but to recognize, okay, what do I think about this? What should I say about this? And I think, or even like, what's my preference in this moment? And spark moments like organizing something. I think it's easy when you're insecure to just float because you're like, I don't know what's going on. And there's whatever it is that you're navigating internally can just make you want to float. And you're like, I'll just do what they want to do. And I blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the young Amy just floating along with whatever you wanted to do, like whatever date you wanted to do, whatever event you wanted to do, whenever you wanted to be affectionate, and not feeling confident that I can be that on my own. And maybe that's like, I can imagine that baby voice coming through, because I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna hide behind my baby voice when I'm trying to say things. And so I think it's just screaming an insecurity there of whatever kind, I don't know. And I think when you're navigating these things, curiosity is your first point. Like, first point is curiosity, gentle curiosity. And then asking yourself what's happening for you. So there's another whole topic, a whole different tangent we could go on, which we're not going to right now, which is when people get the ick. Have you heard that phrase? Maybe? I got the ick. And it's so descriptive. It's like when you all of a sudden see something from a different like way, or some like awkward thing, and you're like, I can't get that picture out of my head now. So there's some examples are like, I saw them trying to change their pants, and they're like hobbling around, and you're just all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got the ick. And shaking that, like, it's hard to shake that.
This is a little bit off topic, so we won't spend too much time on this. But something you said before, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting too, is that, there's definitely that. I remember that shift that you did where you're like, no, I need to start speaking my mind more.
Yeah.
And then it was a whole thing learning on how do you speak your mind, because there was this element of when you were processing through that. Yeah, exactly. It was this, like, you mentioned you didn't share your mind as much. It was more just sort of going along with the flow. Then it was this recognition of, I do that too much. I need to speak up more. Then it was just like extremely other way. And it wasn't. And then we had to work on together of like, well, how do you communicate though? That's great. Communicate. We want more communication. But then it's really about, well, how do you communicate? And a lot of that was just navigating through. But you would actually just say like, look, this is going to come out blunt. I need to get it out. I just need to get it out. So you would give me a warning beforehand, and it helped me get my defense down. So I didn't get all defensive. Like, hang on, this is not right. If this was vice versa, you'd be having all these issues with how I would be speaking. It started like that. Then we recognized that pattern, and then we had the words and the language to actually navigate through that. And now, like, we are still working through that, but it's very, very different now. So I just wanted to state that, because it's like, if someone's listening and you're like, I don't speak up enough, that's great. That's really, really good to identify that. Also put in effort on how you start speaking up too.
I think with that though, because I remember being conscious of this when we were going, or I was going through it, or we were going through it. I think there was an element of, I was saying things like having to figure out that delicate balance, but also I was rocking the boat in a way I hadn't been. I don't think now that same talk would feel as shocking as it did back then, because I was also changing the dynamics. So I think there's a bit of like, whoa, like this is so off-putting because it's not how we've navigated. So I think it's a learning thing for both, or everybody in that relationship environment, because you had to learn a different side of me all of a sudden, or not different side, but just like a more vocal, like transparency. I don't know how to word that. And a different interaction. And I had to learn how to do that interaction well. And so it was just, everyone was like transitioning a little bit and then into the new space. So I think you have to figure out when you're navigating, bringing stuff like this up, what it is for you, what might be going on for them, and then just gently, not just coming out and being like, I don't like this, don't like this, don't like this. I don't like your baby voice. You don't dress nice, and you're not doing romantic things.
You're
like,
not being sparky.
You're not sparking. Just doing it gently, one bit at a time, and figuring out what is important for me to navigate. Chances are baby voice isn't going to last into your 30s and 40s, like if you stay in this relationship. So is that the main thing to navigate, or is there something else sitting behind that, and figuring out how to curiously explore those things together?
I wonder if there's an element of embarrassment for him.
Like, it's embarrassing that
she talks like that. That she doesn't dress a certain way. So he might have, like, for him, because I feel like it's a big thing too for a lot of people, that pressure of like, what other people are going to think. So it's like that elevates the
exactly. Being almost embarrassed by what other people are seeing. And that's a good thing to be curious about as well. If you're bringing that into how you're navigating it, that's important to be aware of. We actually spent way more time on that story than I thought we were going to.
It was a good one, though. Like, I think it's like, there's a lot in that.
I think there's more to chat about that, which is just what's preference, what's what's important, what's like a make or break, and all of those sorts of things.
What's like leaning, like having a curiosity towards why she's acting like that, but also having an attitude of curiosity to why is that an issue for him.
Yeah. And what do you want long term? Because you're in an early relationship, and early relationships are important for exploring what works and what isn't working so great. So yeah, interesting dilemma, but I'm sure they've got it. All right, Reddit story number 2. I, 32 female, sometimes feel like my boyfriend, 32 male, doesn't prioritize me. How do I raise it without nagging? My boyfriend, 32 male, and I, 33 female, have been together for nearly a year, but we don't live together. When we first met, COVID restrictions were in place, so aside from work and family commitments, there wasn't a lot else that took up our time. Now things are back to normal-ish where we live, and we spend less time together. He has sporting commitments 3 nights a week and 2 half days on the weekends. No, he's not a pro athlete, but plays and coaches in his sports at amateur level. He says he enjoys being on the go and feeling productive by doing a lot. Conversely, I like to take things at a slower pace and enjoy going deeper than what going to 5 different things in a day allows. This week, we had dinner together one night, breakfast for an hour one morning, and then about 3 hours together over 2 days this weekend. I love him and I want a future with him, which we've talked about, but lately I feel like he's just fitting me in around all his other commitments, seeing me and then rushing off to go to training or something. I've been thinking of saying something to him, but realized that I raised the same thing a month ago when I told him I was conscious of either coming across as too needy or not attentive enough. He affirmed I wasn't either of those things. I don't want to nag him, but when I was reviewing some emails to a friend, I realized I've had the same issue almost monthly for 5 of the last 7 months. 2 times ago, when I mentioned it, he brought me flowers and gave me a lovely note. Last month, he told me he never wanted me to be unhappy. He goes out of his way to see me, but I feel like it's just for an hour, amongst other things. Is it that I'm just sensitive around the same time every month, or nothing's changing and the issue isn't going away? Could be both.
I really think this is, so we've done an episode on unmet expectations. I think this is a classic case of that. Yeah. And it's like really communicating that, which makes sense for this podcast. But it's really just navigating that. I don't think it's naggy. I think one thing that you've brought up a couple of times is about how you won't bring something up because you feel like it will have a negative impact on our relationship, right? So you'll sit on it. And this was like going back to what we just spoke about, you know, you just wouldn't speak sometimes about things. But it wasn't until we realized actually, no, you not bringing it up means that it's going to have a negative impact on our relationship because it's going to make you feel more negative towards the situation. And I'm just going to be oblivious to it. So it's going to come across like I don't care, but I'm really just not aware. It's not a caring thing. It's an awareness thing. And like with this, his responses seem very positive in regards to, look, his response seems very positive in regards to when she brings it up. He brings her flowers and, you know, notes and stuff like that. Now, the negative thing here, and this is the sad part of it for a lot of guys, and I'll put myself on this too, I'm not going to remove myself from this, is just because you've brought something up does not mean now it's going to change, right? Like you've brought something up. Now I'm a little bit more aware of it, but now I'm like, it takes about like 60 days or something to make a habit. Right. So if you bring it up once, if you just bring it up, if you just say like, hey, Blair, like I struggle that you wear your hat all the time.
Yeah, okay? I really do.
Yeah, same. Amy's smiling and joking, by the way. She would never have an issue with that.
People that are only listening don't know you're wearing a hat.
Yeah, that's true. Watch our YouTube. And you brought that up with me once, right? As a sort of not a passing comment, but just like, hey, I just struggle with how much you wear your hat. It's like, cool. Well, now this is all open to interpretation for me. Does that mean you don't want me to wear my hat in the mornings? Does it mean that you don't want me to wear my hat at all? Like there's so much vagueness to that conversation.
Kind of like the Doc Martens.
Yeah, pretty much like the Doc Martens. Moving on. But I think what's important here is if we're looking at the situation, it's like, well, cool, like laying out, but what is it that she's wanting, not just what is she not happy with now.
On the flip side of that, when someone raises something with you, and if she's done this multiple times, I agree, his responses seem pretty like constructive or positive. He's not like, you're so naggy, and that's why she doesn't want to nag him. But if she's raised it multiple times, I think it's naive for the person who's received that comment to then just be like, I'll do this thing and then it's fine. And unless she raises it again, it's fine. So you have to have buy-in from both sides, right? So
Absolutely.
Like you raise the thing and then the person that you've raised it with, and we talk about this, like if I don't voice my concern, then it's my problem until I voice it, and then it's our problem together. And so the person that has raised it needs to be clear around that and needs to continue that communication, because again, it's one time mention of something is not really fair to expect a whole pattern to change, especially if it's a vague thing. It doesn't have clarity around it. Hat is different. I feel like a hat would actually be easier, because then you're like, oh, she doesn't like the hat. So, which that's a whole other topic. But
just drop the Doc Martens, okay? Just drop it.
Like Doc Martens, yeah.
Drop it.
She's raised something, and it can be really hard to raise things where, especially when you're not feeling loved, it's really hard to say, I don't feel loved. It's really, really hard to say, I need more of you. I need more of your time, because that feels like a burden. And so to muster the emotion to raise that and voice it in whatever way she has previously, the recipient should see that and be like, okay, I'm going to now also keep tracking this conversation. She's said she's not feeling loved. And then, so I'm not just going to do something to make her feel loved and then never ask her again, how are you feeling about our time together? Like, that's where the curiosity comes in. Be like, oh, my partner said she didn't feel like we had great time together. Maybe I should check in. Is it feeling better now? Maybe I should be more aware of those things. So it's an ownership on both sides.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if I made myself clear before when I said I put myself in that position too. I said this is the sad thing about it. If you bring it up to guys, I was pretty much wanting to say what you just said about, like, to that point of like, well, what's reality and what's wishing? So, and it's like, well, okay, reality is a lot of people that we've spoken to, the guy is more likely to hear something but not do much about it, right? Would you agree?
Well, yeah. I think it's they hear something and they don't grasp the seriousness of it.
Yeah. For whatever reason it is. And that's what I was trying to bring across is like, but no, I 100% agree with you. There needs to be that ownership. I think what's important is though, like you mentioned before, it's your responsibility until you bring it up. But it's not now that you've now brought it up and now it's their responsibility. It's both responsibility. Like, and what you're just saying here, like before as well. And that's what I was trying to communicate. Yeah. Sadly, that's not usually the case. So if you're a guy and you're hearing this and you're thinking through that thing that your partner's brought up with you and say, whatever it is, do something about that. Or just touch base with them again to say, hey, I remember that and this is what I'm doing about it. So a lot of times, especially for us early on, we would bring something up, and I don't have any specific situations, but I know this was definitely us in the earlier days. You would bring something up, and I'm like, sweet, all right, I've got that. I've got like locked away. I'm going to work on it. Then you bring it up again. You're like, why are you not? Why are we still talking about this sort of thing? And I'm like, I'm doing stuff. Like, why can't you see that I'm actually putting an effort here? And the thing is like all my working on it was all internal. It was none of it was external. So for you, you're seeing nothing really changing. For me, I'm doing so much effort and I'm trying so hard, but when we don't talk about it, you don't see any of that.
It's more you're trying hard to be aware of the things. Like there's some things that, and this is hard to put these in generalized statements because sometimes when you raise something, it is the other person. Like it depends on what it is. This is a very mutual, like the dynamic of your relationship, and that's something you build together. But I think a lot of the stuff that gets raised in early relationships is an awareness element. And so I can't see what you're aware of unless you vocalize it. And that's that part that you're trying to say is like bringing people in on that conversation and the curiosity. And I just feel like I need to get a tattoo of curiosity. Just be like,
on your forehead.
Oh my God, I don't know where to put it.
You wouldn't see it if it was
I just put it on my like lip or something.
You wouldn't see that either.
I wouldn't, but other people I could just be like, anyway.
So you're reminding them to be curious?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not me. I'm curious enough sometimes. The curiosity is so important because you have to explore. I totally get what you're saying. There has to be like an ownership on the person hearing and exploration. We've talked about this though. Like you might think you've communicated something really clearly. Explore whether you have or not. Don't just sit there and be like, I feel like I've said this. As a recipient, explore what's going on. Your partner might have said something that you don't really fully grasp. Explore that. Ask them questions about it. And in that conversation, explore together. So this couple, it's one thing to be like, I don't feel like we have much time together. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get you some flowers. And then a month later, I don't feel like we have much time together. I'm so sorry. I'll get you some flowers. Like have that conversation. Be like, I'm really struggling with how like our time together, and I'm feeling a little bit pushed to the side because of all your commitments. My battery is lower than yours. My energy battery is lower. I can't take on as much as you, but you can obviously take on a lot. That's valid information and it's not right or wrong. So you just communicate and be like, why do you feel that way? Like, what is it that's making you feel like a not priority? I think I'm not feeling like a priority because you don't seem excited with me. Like, you always seem ready to go to the next thing. Oh, I'm really sorry you feel that way. Like, how can I make the time with you feel exciting? Actually, if we factor in a scheduled thing every week and it's like you're going to plan it because you've got this high battery, or you're going to, I don't know, do something to make it more important. Maybe I'd feel more loved all the time and I'd feel more secure in that. I'm like, yeah, I'm really sorry that I made you feel that way. Like that kind of conversation. You don't just you don't mention it and then leave it for either side of this situation, because that's so complicated. You don't mention it and leave it. You don't hear it and leave it. You mention it and you explore what's going on for yourself, what's going on in your relationship, what's going on for your partner. He might be reacting because he's been in lockdown and he's just like, woo, living my best life. Yeah. And he's got a high battery and he's an external person. And that's valid.
So looking through this too, looking through that story again, she's talking about how they've had dinner one night together, breakfast for 1 hour one morning, and then 3 hours over 2-day weekend. Right. So that's actually quite low in terms of time together. But what would be important for her to talk about is like, well, what would be good amount of time together?
Expectations.
What's her expectations? Yeah. But two, the other part that she mentions here is she feels like he's fitting her around other commitments. So how, that's that conversation they can have together is what would it look like for her to be the most important thing for that day, exactly, or whatever it is, right? So what does that actually look like? Yeah. The other thing that I noticed too is if you look at these two different things, one, I feel like, and if you haven't listened to our episode on the 5 love languages, go check that one out, because I see that she could be really a quality time person. So quality time isn't just time together, it's quality. It's feeling that you actually want to be here with me. I'm a quality time person. Yeah. So the other day, I came out from work, and this is not a diss, this was just what it was. It was yesterday. I think, yeah, it was yesterday. And you had to get some work done, or you were tired or something. And I was working. The kids come home, and we just sometimes give them the screen time when they get home. I finished work early because I was like, I just really want to be with my family right now. I was craving that quality time. Came out, and because they were in front of the screen,
everyone was on their iPads.
No one wanted to hang out with me.
I had a migraine, so I was trying to nap.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah, Amy had a migraine. And we have these things for survival mode. We don't care about survival mode. All our priorities go out the window in survival mode. So that was a really big thing for me, because it's like I made a funny deal about it, but I'm like, I just felt so restless. I'm like, I just want to be with my family. And so quality time is really, really important. So I get that level from what she's talking about. The other thing too is it feels like he could possibly be gifts and words of affirmation. So that you see in the way that he responds in that moment, he's like, oh, cool, you have a need. I'm going to respond out of the way that I receive, and I'm going to respond to you with gifts. And so for him, he's like, look, I've shown you that that you're important to me. I've shown you that you're a priority to me because I've given you something. That's how he receives, not the way that she receives. And that's the mismatch in understanding each other's love languages and the way that each other receive that love. Again, all important conversations to have, and you have these conversations. It's really easy to go into an argument to say you do this or you don't do this, going in with that attitude of curiosity and saying, well, why is this so important to me? Why do I feel that? Why did he buy me flowers when I said I wanted more time?
I don't even like flowers.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And what I actually love this story, because there's only not red flags. There's only green flags about it. Like there's only space for getting closer and closer. Nothing about anything she's described to me sounds like a concern, like a worry. Everything sounds like, what a cool, like how much growth you've got ahead of you guys, because a couple really important conversations, a couple key understandings of yourselves and of your partner, like will transform this. Like you'll feel so much freer. Nothing about this is like, oh yeah, no, it doesn't sound good. And I think that's what that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, is like these little things that we look at, these little parts of, I think a few weeks ago I talked about, it's like under the hood of a car, each different system that we're checking on and fixing and adjusting, it all just builds such a stronger vehicle. And that's the same thing here. It's just little things that they can do that will just be small adjustments of understanding and bring so much value. All right, so let's move on to the next Reddit story. Girlfriend 30 female thinks it's normal for her to raise her voice during arguments, and that I, 29 male, have unrealistic expectations because that bothers me. This is my first relationship. My girlfriend, who's been living with me for some time now, is rather quick to raise her voice when we have a disagreement. big or small. She doesn't start to exactly yell, but her tone is still significantly more intense and loud than what I find comfortable. I always try to remain calm and collected, but it's hard to maintain focus because I often feel like I'm being interrogated or scolded. Situations like this happen several times per week, sometimes even daily, and have been draining my energy significantly lately. I explained it to her that while I don't expect all arguments to be cordial and diplomatic, the frequency of such tone-raising incidents was still too much for me to tolerate. She told me that such arguing is perfectly normal for couples and that my expectations of calm discussions in case of disagreement or conflict were childish and unrealistic, and that I should be more resilient. Loud arguing is hard for me, and I have tried very hard not to drift away emotionally afterwards, while she can switch back to being fully affectionate not long after such a dispute and expects me to be able to do the same. Am I being unrealistic if I expect most conflicts to resolve in a calm tone without loud arguing? How often do you raise your voice at your significant other? If you've had this problem, how did you solve it?
This one, and you gave me options just before of which one I wanted to talk about.
We had too many.
We had too many stories down here, and I said this one because I'm the female in this story. So I'm just a loud person in general, and I've had a history of, before kids and before Amy, I've had a real history of anger problems and regulating emotions and all that sort of stuff. And so this has been a real journey for me. And I want to just share something that happened the other day, actually. When I became a Christian, this was something that I believe that God really worked on me with and is still working on me for. But I'm just such a different person now than what I was. But when I struggle, this is something that does come back up. So 5 years ago now, I experienced a significant burnout, and I've been quite open about that. And one of the things was when I was down and out, like I just could not regulate my emotions. I would just respond. I would explode and never hit anyone or anything in my family, but I would just yell because I just couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't regulate what I was feeling. And it was even at a point, and again, this is out of full transparency here, and this is not an easy thing to share, but there was a point where Amy actually took the kids away one weekend because I just was not coping, and I was a little bit of a fear in the way that I was responding. So this is why I want to talk about this, because this is something that I've really struggled with. So the other day, we were sitting down for dinner, and one of our kids, I might have been tired, I'm not too sure, but one of our kids was not listening really well, and I just got more and more frustrated. And I try and start calm, and then I get more and more frustrated, and then I just yelled. Like, I wasn't aggressive. I just raised my voice, and not to lower that, but I did. I raised my voice, and my kid turned to me and he was just crying. He's just like, "Stop talking so meanly to me." And it hits you hard, And I'm like, man, I did not mean to do that. I did not mean to hurt him. I just wanted him to listen. Like, for me, like, I wasn't in control of my situation at that time. I wasn't in control of my volume of my voice. My intent was not to hurt him in any way possible, but it did. And he was just crying, and we hugged it out, and I apologized and whatever else. And so when I read these sorts of stories, what I want to say is that actually it's not normal. If the way that we are talking is impacting the other person in a significant way, or even in a little way, that's on us. I can see this as in the way that she's responding in this story is a bit of a cop-out. Amy and I are really strongly against the phrase, well, this is just who I am. We're really against that, because who we are, we get to choose all of the things that we are. We get to choose to work on a lot of things that we don't want to be and react in the ways that we don't want to react. We can work on those things. And so for this story, it does trigger me a little bit because of my own issues and my own things that I've been working on. So that's why I picked this one over the other ones, because I think it's so important, the way that we disagree, we want to do that in a safe way. If I'm not being safe with my kids in the tone of my voice, emotionally safe, sorry. If I'm not being emotionally safe with the tone, if I'm raising my voice and if they feel emotionally unsafe, or that I'm being mean or whatever else, then that is going to be impacting our relationship, And now I have a lot of mending to do in this situation. I'm committed to that. I did apologize, but now it's now my responsibility to follow up with that. Like, and how am I growing that relationship and growing that trust back, right? Like, because every time trust is hard to grow, easily to be broken. And even with my own son, I want to be making sure that I'm putting in that effort to grow that trust.
Yeah.
So the way that we talk is extremely important. And if it's received in a specific way, the excuse is never okay of this is just who I am. Deal with it. You need to get better. You need to toughen up. That's just not good in my opinion.
Yeah, we've worked on recognizing when we're saying you're making me angry.
Yeah.
Or those kinds of things, like you're making me angry, or it's too loud, you're making me frustrated, or you're making me overwhelmed. Like you're making me something.
Yeah.
Because it's not true. Like we are in control of our person. We should be in control of our person. And so the stimuli that's happening can make it harder, but we're still, as grown adults, we're responsible for how we react in that place. And so it's really easy as parents. And when I say we've been working on this, I mean, like I say it and then I'm like, I shouldn't be saying it that way all the time. It's something that's really hard to change your terminology around. But you're making me angry is not fair, because whatever they do can't make me angry. I'm getting angry because I'm allowing myself to get angry, and I'm getting angry because of my regulation of the situation.
And you're not exercising the things that you've been working on. Yeah.
You can be in a highly overstimulating situation, but you're still responsible for navigating what's going on. And even if that means removing yourself from that situation because you're right now, you just don't have the mental capacity to control your emotions and your responses. Remove yourself, but you're still responsible. And so we've been trying to implement that into how we communicate, because it's important for the kids to see and hear us not saying you're making me angry. Like even last night or something, our kids at bedtime, I just it's the most infuriating time. And I think it's because I'm so close to the finish line, and I'm like,
it's like this is my relax
and then
time.
it's just like anyway. I was feeling very frustrated, as I do most nights now. And
I was at a men's dinner for church. Yeah.
And I said to the boys, I was like, in a minute, I'm going to be very frustrated. And I really wanted to say, you're making me so mad. But I was like, in a minute, I can feel my resolve slipping. I didn't say these words, but I was like, in a minute. And halfway through, I was like, Mummy's going to be very cranky. And I was just like, so I need you to go to bed. And like, it's such a wrestle, because even that wasn't the right way of doing it. But I'm just like, I'm wrestling with my frustrations, and this, like, sometimes I look at them with the things they're coming out to tell me, and I'm just like, like our daughter will come out and be like, just one more thing. And then I'm like, this better be good.
It's never good.
It's never good.
It's
like,
never good.
I think blah, 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 whatever it is.
I think I saw a butterfly today.
Yeah. And I'm like, I can't express. Any parent probably knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm still in control of that. And I don't like how I show up in those times. And I don't want my kids to see me as an adult so out of control of myself just because of kids doing what kids do. And also, it's super predictable. Like, I have had this every single night for the last however many years. I should know that bedtime is predictably a really stressful time. So what am I implementing to make myself navigate that better? And it's a really important conversation. So how you show up and how you react is 100% your responsibility. Straight away when we read through the story, I was like, it's got to be their family of origins. And that is such a hard thing to weed through as you become a couple and you build your own life together, because you're bringing your family dynamics, what you've seen as normal. She seems to be reacting like this is normal. Like, it's normal to talk this way. And to be fair to her, it is a process to navigate changing that pattern. Like, it really is. So it's one of those examples we talked about earlier. It's not going to be, he's mentioned it once and all of a sudden she never gets that way again. It has to be an ongoing conversation. But I also reckon from this conversation that he has either his family never raised their voices, so he's really thrown by it, or he's got some kind of experience with that was quite traumatic, because he seems very sensitive to it as well. And that's so common to have people from totally different backgrounds. So figuring out that way to navigate it together and have that curiosity around it is really important. But there has to be an ownership part. And it's her saying that he's silly or childish because he thinks it's not appropriate is going to shut that down straight away until you can be open to, I'm making my partner feel this way, and exploring what's normal or what's not there. You're not going to have that conversation. It's not going to be able to continue. Anyway, for conscious of time here, we're going to wrap the story up, but we know some of these are intense things, especially this last one. So watch this space for more resources to navigate these things, but just some practical tips when you're navigating disagreements or bringing things up that you're not sure how to raise them. Here's some practical ways to go about it. First and foremost, curiosity. We've talked about that. Enter everything with curiosity. And this last story, that man entering that conversation with her in a gentle, curious way, I wonder how that would assist her response, like her openness to communicating about it and recognizing the pattern. Get clear before you communicate. So and I think when you're getting clear, be curious about yourself. So if you're having this thing that you're like, oh, I need to talk about this, even if it's, the baby talk or it's the tone of voice when you're arguing, get clear about what is going on for you first and then raise it with them. And then important with that is choosing your timing intentionally. Do not raise it with them in the middle of that argument. That's not going to be the best time to talk about it. It'll probably just escalate. Do not raise it with them. Like the baby talk one, don't raise it with her right after she's baby talked. If it's a serious conversation, don't be like, oh, what is that baby talk? Like that's usually not the most constructive time to be doing that. Leading with I language. So you're clear on what it is that's going on for you and then leading with that communication. So you're saying, I struggle with this, or I've noticed this pattern, or I feel this way. And that helps ease the conversation in. Invite the conversation and the exploration together, that curiosity together. So you don't just say, I struggle with the time we're spending together. You say, I'm feeling a little bit left to the side. And so I just want to talk about like maybe our love languages or figure out how we can better make each other feel supported. You're inviting that conversation between the two of you. You're not just coming with your side and being like, pick that up and deal with it. And then last but not least is collaborate, don't corner. So you're not the same sort of thing. You're not coming in to be like, you're the problem here, fix it. You're coming in to say, I've been navigating this. This is what I've figured out. I want us to work as a team. And you got to figure out where do you want to be in 5 years' time? We used to say that all the time. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be closer together? If so, the conversation is important and you need to work as a team towards that goal. And then I believe every single one of these examples and the ones we didn't read today because we didn't have time, you can work closer together. None of them are a make or break. If you're willing to be curious and work through these things, this is what couples navigate. This is what the strong couples that you have in your life that you see and you wish you could have a relationship like, that's what they've navigated to get to where they are. Everyone has these things that they navigate. So it's an important and an exciting part of relationships to explore these things. So that is Reddit stories on how can I raise this issue. Thank you for being with us. Until next time.
Thanks, guys. Good chat.